It's the one place in Las Vegas where the heat of summer is only encouraging all kinds of exploring and giving, playing and surviving with style here at the Springs Preserve, where all that matters is what's elemental. Wander and wonder with us through the Las Vegas dream that began rather humbly as a railroad stop we're bringing to life again in our historical recreation of the city's early 20th century streetscape.
So visitors to the Springs Preserve will be able to board our trackless train at our train station and take a ride out to the train depot where they will deboard the train, get a chance to look through the railroad depot, which will have a lot of history and information about life in early Las Vegas and train travel. It was really the only way people were able to get around that time. And also be able to look through the other exhibits or buildings and learn more about historic Las Vegas.
As important to the founding of the town as the railroad were the influences of mining and money, represented by the facade of the First State Bank.
In 1910, if you were living in this area, you might also be mining for precious minerals. So one of the interactives we'll have is an assay station where people can actually weigh what we're going to call precious materials and figure out what those precious materials might be like and actually fill out an assay form, which was pretty common practice back in 1910.
Of course, the streetscape wouldn't be complete without the original Las Vegas resort and club scene.
The other building that they'll be able to walk into is a recreation of the Lincoln Hotel. So they'll be able to check in. We'll have a station for them to sign a guest registry and some interactive things to keep them engaged as they move throughout the properties. We're also doing a recreation of the Arizona Club. And the cool thing about the Arizona Club is it's going to have that real look and feel of the early 1900s. We're going to have the replicated look of the kind of curved leaded glass that they had in the front of the building. So we've paid a lot of attention to details on these buildings to really give them an accurate historic look and feel.
And a welcoming atmosphere that's typical of Las Vegas entertainment then and now.
It'll actually have room for 40 or 50 people. There'll be a bar in there, it'll have some bar stools on it, and there'll be places in there where you can actually roll in and set up ice chests underneath the bar, so if somebody wanted to rent it out for a party or a wedding or a reception or something, they can step back to 1910 and have their reception or their social event.
In a setting that will attract crowds with its vintage and innovative appeal.
And then if you look around at the street itself, I mean, to me that just screams, 1910 street party, or somebody that maybe wants to come out and do some kind of a living history reenactment. So I imagine that history will come to life here in one form or another after this exhibit opens. We anticipate the streetscape opening up to the public in the early part or by the spring of 2017. So once major construction is finished on the outside and the inside of the buildings, that's kind of half of the construction project. The other half will be furnishing them with the furnishings and putting the interpretive graphics and the interactive elements in.
The Preserve welcomes the members of the Nevada Watercolor Society and the competitors in their annual spring show, which will display prize-winning works at the Big Springs Gallery through July 10th. For more information, visit our website at springspreserve.org. We're on the map consistently as a kid-friendly parent favorite, must-visit destination, and there are so many reasons why. For starters, we make learning fun.
We have over 30,000 school-age kids that come here on field trips each year, and what we try and highlight are different areas throughout the Springs Preserve, our Spring Mound, which is our birthplace, which is why everybody came to Las Vegas. And so we like to educate them on why they're here, why their families were here, and gives them a great background to the history of where they live.
Over the summer, kids can get complete access to the preserve through a camp experience that's always in demand.
We have 12 exciting weeks. Each week is themed, a different theme, and registration is currently going on for that. We expect to fill, we have 60 spots for each week and looking to have a lot of fun there.
Kids can engage in the earth-shaking geological interaction of water and sand.
Inside our Origin exhibit, we have a brand new exhibit here. It is our sand erosion table. It's located where the spring mound is, and kids can go ahead and get their hands dirty with it. They can move the sand to go ahead and show the different elevations and manipulate the entire exhibit. It's a lot of fun for the kids here.
Even shoveling dirt and breaking rocks isn't considered hard labor when the kids can find a treasury of lessons hidden within.
We have our new mining sluice, which is located outside the gift shop. For $9, you can purchase a bag of material, take it out to our sluice, and go ahead and sift through it and find lots of different minerals and gems and fossils. It's been a great addition to our experience outside the Nature Exchange and gift shop. We have a Crack-A-Geode inside the Nature Exchange, which is located at the gift shop. Parents can go ahead and choose between two different size geodes. We have our smaller geodes for $2 for members, $3 for non-members, or our new mega geodes, which are $5 for members and $6 for non-members. Inside, beautiful quartz crystals. It's a great experience for every child.
Because around every corner of our museums, collections, and trails, children are likely to have new and profound encounters with the natural, animal, and technological worlds that have converged here.
Inside our Origin Museum, we have our flash flood exhibit, which is 5,000 gallons of water that's gravity fed, that kids can go ahead and stand on a platform and learn what it's like to be at a flash flood. And it's a great educational tool for us here. So being outdoors in the Las Vegas Valley, the ground is very hard, and when it does rain here, it rains hard, and the water doesn't have a chance to soak in. So it really is a great tool to show kids the dangers of being near a flash flood. We have our live animal exhibit where you can see our rabbit habitat. We've got fox, tortoise habitat, lots of cool lizards and Gila monsters, pocket gophers. It's one of our more popular exhibits here. Another great experience here at the Springs Preserve is our train rides. Train ride runs every hour, and it's a great thrill for the kids to go ahead and sit on the train and see the birthplace of Las Vegas. It takes you around the outskirts of our property here, and it lasts about 25 minutes. And it's a great educational component as well.
That's memorable as one more trip on a lifelong journey of learning and returning to the preserve. Now is the time to sign up for our summer fun camps at the Springs Preserve, where parents can be sure their children will keep learning and kids will have some of the best times of their young lives exploring a new theme every week. From prehistoric predators to alien visitors, movie magic to time traveling. For more information or registration, visit springspreserve.org. All summer long, the much-anticipated return of our spectacular animal show is sure to attract enthusiastic fans from every different direction and for many different reasons. But what they'll always end up sharing is a greater appreciation for the abilities that desert creatures have to become the ultimate survivors.
So we'll have mammals, reptiles, invertebrates. And the show is loosely based off of the show Survivor, and lots of audience participation.
Twice each day, the curators of our living collection will be revealing an ever-changing lineup of animal competitors to test their survival skills against the environment and each other.
This is where we're going to learn about different animal adaptations that all these animals have to survive here in the Mojave Desert. And the audience will be our tribal council, and they'll ultimately get to vote on who the winner is for that show.
Several hand-picked participants will also get a unique perspective on how to adapt to the challenging desert environment.
We'll also have some challenges on stage for some lucky guests to help participate in as well. So it'll be kind of head-to-head comparisons and, you know, who's best able to adapt with limited water and food resources, or who's best adapted for the extreme heat of the summer months in the Mojave Desert. And then guests will get to decide who wins each particular section and ultimately who the desert survivor is for each particular show.
Guests can expect to see the most popular Mojave fauna, but then there's always the possibility of totally random and unforeseen natural events knocking out the front-running animals.
You know, it'll be, various lizards, maybe it'll be some chuckwallas or desert iguanas, pocket gophers, tarantulas, scorpions, variety of snakes. So it's just another great way for us to highlight the different animals that we have on display here at Springs Preserve, and in a fun way for guests of all ages to learn a little bit more about the biology and natural history of each specimen. All the animals that we have here in the Mojave Desert obviously have to be, to a certain degree, really good desert survivors. So it'll be up to the guests, though, to kind of choose their favorite and who they think survives the best out of all of them.
Which can make some surprise species the winner of this life or death desert game because of their special combination of survival skills or their status as fan favorites.
Sometimes guests really have a favorite, and so that's who they're rooting for throughout the show. Sometimes we're able to change hearts and change minds because they see the animal in an entirely new light.
But whatever the outcome, it's always a win-win competition for audiences that are sure to ooh and ah over the animals and finally understand what it takes for us all to be ultimate desert survivors.
The challenge for us is, we've got lots of people that move to southern Nevada from, various locations in the U.S. or the world. And so sometimes they come to the desert and they don't even realize what's in their own backyards or surrounding areas. So this is a fun way to teach people about the wildlife that we have here in the Mojave.
Why not follow the call of the wild bird along with the eager ornithologists from the Red Rock Audubon Society, who won't be far behind, searching for the best nests and perches and ponds all over the preserve. For more information, visit our website at springspreserve.org. We have a surefire way to brighten up the summer by sparking the imagination of everyone in the family with our new exhibit at the Origin Museum that encourages exploration at the speed of light and play.
So the Springs Preserve's newest traveling exhibit will be Playing with Light, which was developed by SciTech Australia in Perth and is brought to us by Imagine Exhibitions. The exhibit looks at the physics of light and how it is that we as humans interact with light in our daily world. So it includes everything from holograms to the way that different light colors interact with the spectrum, and in terms of how we see our environment and what it is that light can do for us.
Which is, quite simply, fundamental to understanding our daily digital world as well as the still undiscovered universe.
Some of the interactives include everything from a hologram to looking at computers and how computers interpret light and transform that into something usable for us. The exhibit has a lot of fun ways that we as humans can interact with light, everything from polarized light to what's called sticky or bendy light, infrared light, and even really learning more and more about the different colors on the spectrum.
And all of these interactive experiences will have the kids acting out in the most energetic and educational ways.
There's a lot of opportunities for full body movement for families of all ages, particularly children, as they interact and dance with the light throughout the exhibit, on the walls and on the floors.
At the Springs Preserve, we consider it part of our mission to make sure the underappreciated, misunderstood bee earns more respect and protection because of its essential role in propagating all manner of flowers and plants, fruits and produce while making honey in the process.
Bees are a critical link to our ecosystem, and they are responsible for pollinating over 80% of the world's flowering plants and 75% of the crops that we have here in the United States. There are 20,000 species of bees worldwide, and 4,000 of those are native to the U.S. And in the Southwest, in Nevada alone, we have about 2,500 species of native bee. So it's very likely that you've seen some of these native bees, which you might be less familiar with, in your own backyard.
Local keeper and honey producer Richard Hicks is a champion of the bees' cause and the colonies at the preserve.
It's a beautiful habitat there, and the bees are always felt at home in the Springs area. Originally, with so many trees and water and everything, it's an ideal place for bees and other organisms there. And so bees were well established. In fact, my guess is that some early beekeepers probably had hives in that area, years ago. In this Las Vegas area, southern Nevada, there's really a strong interest in local honey. That's people feel that it really helps with their allergies and so on, and so there's quite a demand for a locally produced honey for that purpose.
His involvement in the honey trade makes him very aware that the bees are usually too busy to bother you when they're so intent on creating their own sweet resource.
The worker bee, when she's working, lives typically 5 or 6 weeks. At that time, their wings become tattered and so on, and they usually maybe just don't make it back from the field. They're unable to fly back. So they go through their adult life pretty quickly once they become field bees and are out flying away from the hive.
Most bees are not a threat at all in the least. If you're out in the wild and you're approaching a hive, that's probably your biggest concern, something you want to be aware of. But in our home gardens, walking by shrubs that are covered with bees, their focus is to collect food for their hive, and that's what they're focusing on. As long as they don't face a personal threat by you, they're really just going to leave you alone if you leave them alone. And so what we can do as individuals is really try to ensure that they have sources for food and places to actually nest. Also, providing flowering sources throughout the year with a focus on native plant species is really going to be helpful to ensuring their survival. So you want to look at a water source where they can't drown. So if you have a shallow source of water or maybe some pebbles so they have a way to climb out, or a stick, that's a great thing to draw them to the space. So another thing we can do is make sure that we're reducing or entirely eliminating chemical use on our properties, because it can have very significant negative impacts to their survival. To me, they're really an incredible group of insects that is well adapted to the environment and something that we should be protecting and looking out for.
In the summertime, our botanical garden will burst with herbs, so why not come learn how to grow your own and discover the many ways they can enhance your landscape. Visit our website at springspreserve.org for more information. In so many ways, our volunteers make the Springs Preserve functional and friendly, and the opportunities they can find to serve here are as various as the ever-changing attractions of this place.
Oh my goodness, I don't think we could honestly run the property without them. We have several assignments throughout the day that our volunteers help us with, whether it's engaging our guests in an activity in one of our traveling exhibitions, or whether it's greeting guests, wayfinding. It's a big property, there's a lot of places to see, and there's a lot of things to do, so we really need help in just getting our guests and enhancing their experience throughout the property. I think one of the best things about the Springs Preserve from a volunteer's point of view is you can go into our database and you can sign yourself up for a shift. So if today you felt, maybe I want to deal with the public as they come into our Origin exhibits and into the Origin Museum, you can greet them, you can entertain them, you can engage them, you can send them on their way and really enhance their experience. We have 3 different tracks, if you will. We have traditional core volunteers, we have special project volunteers, and then we also have group projects. That's a large group of people that come in to help us with a gardens project, help us if we're creating something, building something. A volunteer is able to have a very basic track, come in and spend a very simple day, or else they're able to train more and become a docent. And then they're working on a deeper level. They might be working in our butterfly habitat as a docent, got a little bit more expertise on those exotic creatures, or else you're in the nature exchange where you're working with traders, the children and the adults too, who come in and trade for information and to trade artifacts for better artifacts. Our minimum age to volunteer is 14. If you're 14 through 17, you need to have your parents' permission and to sign a release of liability and photo use for your being on property. But you can come and you can do different things. If you're retired, if you're still working full time and you just want to give a couple hours on the weekend, I think that that's one of the beauties of the program right now, is that you can choose what you want to do. You have a chance to actively engage in something that interests you on a property where there's a lot of like-minded people, and when there's also public, and you have a chance to engage them, you have a chance to give them something and help them realize the potential of this place.
With the summer crop of vegetables coming in, Chef Cicely has her pick of bright red bell peppers that are roasted for extra flavor, then pureed and served hot or cool as a stock or sauce in a refreshing recipe called coulis.
Howdy folks, my name is Chef Cicely and I'm joining you today from the Divine Cafe in the Springs Preserve in the lovely Las Vegas, Nevada. And today we are going to be preparing coulis. And coulis is spelled C-O-U-L-I-S. And it comes from the French word coulier, and before that, the Latin word calaticus. What it means, or originally meant, was the juices from prepared meats. As in, if I had a beautiful roast in front of me and I cut it, the blood and the juices that would drip off, that was calaticus. Well, a coulis is the modern derivative, and it comes from a fruit or a vegetable. And right now we have some lovely, lovely peppers in season, so we're going to be making red pepper coulis. The technique I'm going to use is to very simply roast this. Not a necessary step, just add some additional flavor. Then I'm going to blend it, and then I'm going to strain it. Pretty simple. So my first step, just going to get this ready to go onto a roasting pan. Cutting out the ribs of the pepper. Those are any of the kind of the portion of the pepper that gives it the bitter flavor, or if it's a hot pepper like a serrano or a jalapeno, that's where all the heat will come from. So I'm going to take this pepper and get all my usable pieces. That's of course going to be the outside here. Got a prepared baking sheet that I would of course lay it out on. Now again, for a coulis, this is simply not a necessary step by any means. All it is just adds another little layer of flavor. This would go into an oven to roast at about 275 to 325, pretty open-ended, just depending on how much time you have, for about 20 minutes or so, until what you get is something like this. So the peppers are, of course, nicely roasted out and blistered. These ones have already been peeled, had the skin pulled back. Now, to make a coulis, what I would do is take all of these parts, they simply go into a blender. And for this one, we can even put those fresh ones in there too, so we'll get a nice medley of flavors. What I'm going to do is something called pulsing it, which means I'm just going to go on and off, on, off, on, off, and let the blade spin, pull the food in, stop, let everything stop moving, then I'm going to turn it on again, and just do that until everything is mixed to the amount that I want it to be. I've got an example here. Same thing, nice and blended up, and one of the things you'll see with that pulsing action is that the color doesn't change much. If the blade is whipping air into my mixture or it's heating it up, this would be a really bright pink color. And that's not ideal. I want that rich, deep red that matches my original bell pepper. So, with this coulis, in addition to just the peppers, I threw in a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and then what I also did was a little bit of vinegar, or you could also use lemon juice. Just some form of an acid, and that will help it hold so that I can use it for more than just the immediate 3 days. There's one more thing I want to do with some amazing fresh produce right now, and that's kale. And this is a purple kale, and you can see it's just got this brilliant color. One of the unique things about kale that makes it so actually very nutritious, but also unique in its textures, it's got a whole lot of fiber in it, and of course a lot of color. So with all that fiber, there's something very unique that I can do with it that will preserve its color and also allow me to take advantage of its seasonality. When a fruit or a vegetable is in season, there's a ton more of it because it's all ripe. However, who wants to eat kale breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day for a month straight? I don't know if I can. So what I'm going to do is prepare it in a way that's a little bit different, and it also allows it to hold a long time, just like that pepper coulis. And that is making a kale chip. So this is similar as well. I've just taken out those tough stems. I'm going to spread them with nothing on them, rip them down to be all about the same size, get them in a nice single layer. Anytime I roast a vegetable, I want it in a nice single layer so that everything actually roasts. In other words, air and heat goes all the way around it. It doesn't steam. This goes in the oven at about 275, 325, depending on how much time I've got, just until they are nice and crispy. So here I've got a few that are already done, and you'll see that the color holds just beautifully. And these are also very fun to eat, and they're crispy like a chip, hence kale chips. What I want to use them for is a garnish. So I can use the coulis as it was originally or traditionally intended, which is the sauce for something like a chicken dish, a beautiful grilled chicken, garnished with lovely kale chips, and of course a touch of cheese for that buttery saltiness and a good amount of color. Or I could even treat coulis like a gazpacho and serve it by itself as a vegetarian soup. And again, it looks just as lovely garnished with the kale chips and with the Parmesan cheese. So thank you very much. My name is Chef Sisley here at the Divine Cafe, and we hope to see you here.
There's a lot more to discover, so join us next time here at the Springs Preserve, where you can really find all things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, mingling to bring new life to Las Vegas.